Everyone, my name is Kayla and welcome to our very first video, which is titled, What is Self-Care? I'm excited for you guys to see these modules. I've worked really hard on them and I hope that they can be inspiring, educational, and somewhat entertaining. So before we get started, I wanted to explain what the modules kind of look like so you have an idea of what's to come. So each module will be roughly 10 minutes long, and after every module, there'll be some kind of resource that goes with that module or that video, whether it's a quiz or a document that you can print off or something you could save to your phone or your computer. There will be something for you at the end of each video that you watch. So it's important to stay in tuned. I want you to learn something as well as feel more empowered. That's something that I'm very passionate about. I hope every single person who's watching can learn a little bit more about self-care and what that looks like for them. So without further ado, we're going to get started as we're about a minute in. So what is self-care? Let's start there, okay? So a lot of people know the idea of it. They don't know the definition of it, but they know what it is, you know what I'm saying? Most people practice self-care without realizing it, believe it or not. And so I want to explain to you what self-care is and what makes it different from self-indulgence. Because believe it or not, a lot of people don't know the difference between the two. And I feel like to know self-care, you have to know what self-indulgence is. And I'll explain why in a minute. So let's start with what self-care is, okay? So self-care, according to Cambridge Dictionary, I went to the dictionary, y'all. So it's defined as the practice of doing activities that you enjoy that allow you to relax, especially in order to improve or avoid stress. Okay, so that's Cambridge Dictionary's definition of self-care. Activities that helps with relaxation in order to reduce stress. Okay. Now, self-indulgence, okay, same dictionary, Cambridge Dictionary, feel free to look it up if you must, defines self-indulgence, okay, as the act or the choice of allowing yourself to have or do anything you want. You see how they kind of differ? So, when I've been working with clients on self-care, I tell them to be very mindful of the difference between the two because self-care leans more on healthier ways of coping with that stress, and self-indulgence is kind of more leans more towards the unhealthy way of coping with, stress and trying to take care of yourself. So I'll give an example. I had one client who indulges in chocolate whenever they're stressed out, which isn't a bad thing until they found themselves in a period of weeks being stressed out. And that led to weight gain. And that led to, negativity towards their body and being self-conscious. And that led to many other things. And believe it or not, overall, they ended up being overwhelmed and not having any idea where all this, started. And so I reminded them, well, didn't you tell me that, you were eating the chocolate and you couldn't keep yourself from eating the chocolate and it just started building and building and building? And then they were like, oh, yeah. So you got to be really, really careful and know the difference between self-care and self-indulgence. Okay. So just to confirm, okay, self-care, these are activities that are good for you. They're healthy for you. They have a better outcome for you. Okay. Self-indulgence, yes, you're taking care of yourself, but not in a way that's best for you. Okay. But being able to know the difference between the two, having that mindfulness, it will help when we go through and talk more about self-care and what that looks like for you. Okay. So I hope that made sense as far as what the difference is between self-care and self-indulgence. Okay. If you still have questions, feel free to message me, contact me. The details will be on the homepage. or leave a comment or something, and I will get back to you. Okay. But I want you to understand the difference between self care and self indulgence. Okay. So now that we know the difference between the two, let's talk about why self-care is important. Okay, so why are we here? What is the point of this website? You know, I spent years thinking and dreaming and researching self-care and better ways of helping people, better ways of helping myself. Um, I know at a season, three plus years, I did mental health therapy. And if you know anything about therapy, it takes a lot of work on yourself and on, the other person to be able to get yourself and the client to the best place that they could be. And so I've had a lot of practice. I've done a lot of teaching, and I feel like that I am in a place where I can actually teach this to other people. So why is self-care important, guys? The pause is not for dramatic effect. This is for anyone who's like me. Whenever you watch videos and the speaker asks a question and you're actually talking to the video. So for those types of individuals, shout out to you guys. Every once in a while, I'll give a brief pause. Oops, sorry. I'll give a brief pause so you can actually think. So why is self-care important? Okay. So there's no wrong answer and there's no right answer. Okay. Self-care is important because this is the practice of taking care of yourself. Okay. Most people will take care of, their pets, their kids, their mama, their man, anyone and everyone but themselves. So self-care, as you can hear it in the word, is just talking about caring for yourself. And this is important because in order to take care of other people, I believe that it starts with you taking care of yourself. You can learn a lot about a person based on how they take care of themselves or how they don't take care of themselves. So this is something that is very close to my heart, which is why I'm here, which is why I put this together. So self-care is important for many, 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 many reasons. We got to find your reason, okay? For me, self-care is important because I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing and I wouldn't be having the conversations that I'm having if it wasn't for me taking the time to care for myself and making sure that I'm okay, whether that's physically, emotionally, and mentally. Okay. And to dive into that briefly, because I don't want to go too deep in it in this video, because we're talking about what is self-care. Okay. Um, Physically, self-care, it just talks about your body, your overall physical, whether it's appearance or how you're feeling in your skin, like all things physical. And then emotional, this is just kind of those feelings, the emotions, whether, you are having conversations with people or you're receiving conversations from people. Um, and then mental well-being, I mean, this is just all about your mind. Where's your mind at? Everyone kind of knows about, the negative effects of your mental health. And so it's super important, okay, to make sure that you put yourself in check and figure out what you need so that you can live the best way that you can. So, not just for yourself, but for others and for people in your life, especially those who love you and those who don't. So, keep that in mind. Okay, so I know that I kind of went around a little bit as far as why self-care is important. Again, there's no right way of answering that question. We just need to find your answer. So I would love to hear it. Feel free to, put it in a comment, message me what you feel like as far as why self-care is important for you. Okay. But for this lesson, what is self-care? Essentially, you're just caring for yourself. And I don't say it like that to make anyone feel like belittle or anything like that. I'm not about that. But I say it because a lot of people, I feel like, when it comes to self-care, there's so many questions, confusion, this and that. And it's so simple that I think it's complicated. I think that's how it's kind of been. So, but essentially, guys, come on. I want you to know that self-care is just caring for yourself in a healthy way. Okay. So, um, that is the end of this video. So thank you for watching. If you stayed the whole time, I hope by the end of this video, as I get ready to leave, that you understand or have a better idea on what self-care is, what self-care is not. Self-indulgence is not self-care, and why that is, as well as, briefly talking about why self-care is important and some different areas within self-care just to be mindful about, which is, like the physical, emotional, mental well-being. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to leave a comment below if you feel comfortable doing that, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye, guys.